Hello everyone. Thank you for attending the Financial Education Grant Program. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore the different grant programs that are available for employers in the state of Florida to file and receive funding that is associated with educational solutions from LAMBERS for your EA, CE, CPE, and CPA requirements. Once again, I'm Cesar Ruiz, and I have been a corporate business development leader in the state of Florida for the past 15 years. I've had the great pleasure of working with many different organizations across many different industries in order to identify a common goal, which is what is a solution, what are the grant programs that are available, and how do we align them together. Now, in this presentation, we will talk about who is LAMBERS, who is LearningAlliance Corporation, what roles do they play in this entire grant program, and then what is the financial education grant program in detail? How does it benefit me as an employer, and what are the eligibility requirements? Would I qualify? Once that's completed, you will know how to get started, and if this is of interest to you, how to obtain a grant. So who is LAMBERS? LAMBERS is a leader in the CPA, CE, financial continuing education space, and they've been doing this since 1966. One of the things about LAMBERS that I really appreciate when first learning about the organization is that they have a very specific teaching methodology that provides a lot of illustrations and examples towards problem-solving methodologies. And since 1966, they have helped over 250,000 people get certified, become CPAs and EAs, and they have some excellent subject matter experts and best-selling authors, a part of their team that really makes their product very, very powerful. Now, who is LearningAlliance Corporation? Fundamentally speaking, LearningAlliance Corporation is a company that really focuses on aligning college professors, universities, industry partners with different grant programs and initiatives across the state so that we can align those different needs that employers may have in need with different programs that are available and uniting those solutions to become one. So let's take a sneak peek at LearningAlliance Corporation and their experience. They were started in 2004, and in the past 15 years, they've written over 220 different grants to over 140 different companies, and they support the entire state, primarily Jacksonville, South Florida, Orlando region, and they're headquartered out of Tampa, Florida. So when we look at the success of LearningAlliance Corporation, they really focused on custom developing over 200 different industry programs with employers and aligning those employer programs with grant-specific funding to support those initiatives. By 2010, they averaged over 2,900 students per year while supporting 45 different industry codes across the state. Now, as we review the results of LearningAlliance Corporation, we're going to be able to see that they have supported 8 different new certification programs within 3 different major industries. And in those grants and in those programs, they have really focused on different organizational learning experiences, from project management in the IT logistical spaces to process improvement methodologies in manufacturing in order to really quantify waste, rework, inefficiency, and scrap. And then here recently, they were one of the key innovators in the industry program development for digital broadband, how to become a cable installer, how to do fiber optic implementations, how to do a wireless infrastructure in 3G, 4G, and the upcoming 5G frame. Those are the key pieces in that infrastructure that they were involved in. Now here recently, something that we're very, very excited about is the fact that we have created LAMBERS specific credential IDs for CPAs, EAs, and really the financial education system as a whole. And the whole purpose of this grant and this relationship with LAMBERS is to, again, allocate those credential IDs with organizations that find value and need for that service. So let's get to it. What is the Financial Education Grant Program? Look at it as a three-legged stool. First, your company, your firm, Lambert's Education, and LearningAlliance Corporation. All three of us working in tandem to identifying your training, learning, and development needs with the grant programs and funding that will bring that to reality. At the conclusion of this presentation, you're going to walk away with some fundamental knowledge. One, you're empowered as an employee to receive grant awards for your firm, and that those awards should really be aligned towards the learning and development needs of your organization as a business within the state of Florida. And if you're a small business, there's a dedicated amount of funding that is there to support those initiatives, and we're basically looking to partner with organizations in your vertical space towards identifying ways that we can best help you grow and develop in a very, very evolving financial space with new tax laws. Ultimately, the grant program begins on July 1, and it's going to run all the way through the end of the second quarter of 2020. That's what we define as our state year. Now, in the Financial Education Grant Program, there really are four key verticals, or what we call pillars, that are available to you. I'm going to take the next few minutes to go through them individually so you have a very clear understanding of the different solutions that are available to you and that can become funded through this grant. So let's look at this very first pillar, financial continuing education. Now, it's great that they have 200 hours for IRS CE courses and 400 hours for CPE courses available. But one of the things that we found valuable is the fact that they separate those two CEE programs. They don't intermix them together, all while having the largest library of tax and tax updated courses in the industry. Something else that we find of great value is the fact that not every user learns the same way. So for example, video, PDF for handouts, webinar, whichever solution's best for the user, they had a solution for it. The other thing that we found of value is they probably have what we consider to be the hidden gem. It's a powerful reference library. It's part of the subscription, and it just allows our users, it allows our students to basically utilize their quick finder search mechanism and go to the direct information that is critical to that individual at that given time. All in all, when we reviewed this package of continuing education, it became very apparent that it's a very good single source, one-stop shop solution. Now let's look at this second pillar, which is really CPA certification, EA certification. This is something that Lambert's has been doing since the 60s for over 50 years, and they have helped really tens of thousands of individuals prepare and pass their exam on their first attempt. And one of the key reasons why they can do that is because they really partner with, industry leading professionals. Eva, also known as Tax Mama. Kevin Boyd, the author of the popular Accounting for Dummies book series, both very well known, very well respected within the industry. They're the type of assets and resources that Lambert's has been partnering with in order to bring a quality product to the market. And ultimately, they have taken these resources and they've aligned it with their technology. They have a very comprehensive library that is both video and test prep to ensure that the candidates have the opportunity to test their knowledge base, their abilities to prepare for the exam, and have a simulated environment that will essentially help them achieve certification. Now lastly, I believe we can all agree that in 2018, we recognize that the tax industry is changing. Last year as a whole, we lost about 4% of our individual tax return business. That equated to about 2.4 million filings that individuals either chose to do on their own or on an online service for their 1040 returns. Individually, we believe that the industry is going to continue to shift in that model. And a lot of CPA firms are going to have to stop and react and recognize that a way to make up or diversify will be to go towards business filings. On average, a 1040 return last year was around $176, while the basic business return was built at around $800. In our opinion, Lambers is one of the fastest and most economical ways for a firm to quickly staff up with their EAs or their CPAs, and it is our goal through this grant to align with CPA firms that are going to be experiencing that type of effect, and we would like to ensure that the different products that are available through Lambers are made available to the CPA firms in the state of Florida. Now, in this last pillar, we're going to talk less about finance and more about business. At the end of the day, all companies and organizations need to have some sort of a organic, continuous learning mechanism on how to support, manage, develop, and really grow our staff and the competencies of our teams. So in this specific vertical, consider the fact that there are different solutions and training programs that are available. Soft skills such as communication strategies with personality assessments, goal setting, critical thinking, business etiquette, problem solving, and decision making. These are the type of fundamental components that allows us to really look at our businesses and identify where's my waste, where's my rework, where's my inefficiency. How can we streamline the business to be as efficient as possible? And then again, business tools such as Microsoft Office, QuickBooks, cloud-based technology, Microsoft 365. When you think of this vertical, think about your business and then how do you fine-tune it to become as successful as possible? So now that you understand a lot more about the products that are available and that have been skewed with curriculum IDs for funding, the next step will be on really learning how do I qualify for the grants. I know the funds are there, but what is the process, what is the protocol, and what are the systems that are associated with filing, requesting, and obtaining those dollars? So let's begin by looking at the eligibility requirements. Now, regardless of whether we are going to be filing for state or regional funding, a lot of the fundamentals are going to stay the same. First, when we engage and LearningAlliance Corporation is retained to represent you in identifying grant programs that fit your organization that you're eligible for, these are the first things we're going to look at. A, what is your Dun & Bradstreet? What does it look like? And do you have any liabilities? And then from the Department of Treasury, would they be able to provide a clearance letter confirming that you have no tax liabilities? And once those components are put in place, then we can look at the scope of services and whether regional or state funding becomes the best solution. Because depending on whether it's state or regional, it'll determine the amount of funding associated with the solution that we're trying to implement. Is it going to be 50%, 75%, 80%, or 100%? But the delivery of all services from the moment that the grant gets allocated and awarded is that we have to have everything done by June 30th. Unless you're a small business and we have a rolling 12-month initiative, all grants have to end by the 30th of June. And again, all training has to equal either a hard skill, certification, or the continuation of an existing credential. Now, once you have completed the eligibility requirements, take into consideration that it roughly takes about a week for LearningAlliance Corporation to process and identify that, again, you are eligible for these programs. And once that has been completed, you will get moved over to the grant process and workflow. Specifically in this process and workflow, the very first thing that we're going to do is set you up as an employer to become a recipient of these different grants. And once that has been completed, we then move into the scope of service document. Now, this is going to be a very critical part of the entire process because the definition of a scope of service would be for you as the employer and someone at Lambers to identify, A, well, which program specifically do I need within my organization? How many employees would be served for which product? And once those details have been defined, then I will be empowered to actually build an application and submit it in order to obtain an award within 30 days. Ultimately, once that award has been received, that's when Lambert services can then be kicked off. And at that moment, we will be receiving continuous reports from Lambert's so that we can go ahead and do your filing, your reporting, your grant management, and equally as important, your closeout. Ultimately, again, we will have a year to take your scope of service and apply it and deliver it. That is the high-level overview of the grant. Now let's take a minute to look at some previous LearningAlliance Corporation grant success stories. Now these are going to be important because it's going to talk about two employers in industries that had a major shift. And because there was a shift, their businesses also had to adapt. Very similar to what we're experiencing in the tax space, with 1040s becoming more of a commodity. These are going to be examples of companies that leverage the grants in order to achieve this evolution. So let's go ahead and begin with Tampa Armature Works, great local company that's been around for over 100 years. And recently, a few years ago, they utilized the grant in order to train all of their employees, their supervisors, their leaders on a data management standard operating procedure that allowed them to get trained on SharePoint components, power users, data input, research, and query process-based implementations in their manufacturing floor. Now that implementation in association with the training was very successful in helping the organization shave 4 minutes per record component. That's the type of application of grant and solution that we're hoping to also bring to you. Now let's shift and talk about Minolta. They've been around forever and they were always known as a great copier company, but the copier industry shifted, and about 10 to 15 years ago, a lot of those printers were being connected to networks, and a lot of their technicians did not know how to troubleshoot, set up, or really apply one of their multi-centers into a network-based environment. We utilized the grant in order to take their technicians, train them, and get them certified on building custom solutions on how to take their copiers and network activate them into a real-world environment. This is a great example of a company that evolved and utilized the grant in order to build that evolution path. Now, if you're an employer in the state of Florida and you've now seen what the grants are, what they do, you understand that there is an eligibility path, and you've seen some of the different examples of companies that have utilized these grants in order to evolve within their business. This is how we get started. So first things first, we need to identify eligibility. So in order to achieve that, please notice that there's 4 key things that we're going to need in order to do the basic research in order to confirm eligibility. Now let's assume that everything comes back correct, which I'm certain in the financial space, most of you are just extremely up to par on this. The next piece would be, once the scope is created and the application is submitted and awarded, there's going to be some pieces on, well, who are we serving within the grant? So the employees, we're going to need to have a profile form, a registration form for each participant that is going to be in the grant. And you're going to need to also provide proof to the state of Florida that they are a W-2 employee, such as an I-9 form, anything that demonstrates that they are not a 1099 employee, because one of the key pieces of this grant is that only W-2 employees qualify. So now that we have completed this presentation, let's take a quick glance at some of these requirements. Let's just go over everything that we've learned about these grants. And again, if you have any questions, you'll be able to get a hold of a representative. But please review the requirements. And if you believe that you would like to engage in one of these grant programs to support your organization, get a hold of a Lambert's representative. That representative will be able to answer your questions, review outcomes, and equally as important, will help build a scope of service that will need to be provided to LearningAlliance Corporation. Remember, that scope document is a critical piece in order for us to write the grant, activate the employer, associate the grant application with an award, and then provide that award so that services can then be rendered. At the end of the day, you've got a great team here to support you. Lambers has committed not only to just building the products, the systems, and having the service members there to support you, but they've also partnered with LearningAlliance Corporation in order to engage in the fulfillment of these grant services to help you achieve your goals. If you have any questions, do not be afraid to reach out to Lambers or to me directly. As always, look forward to supporting you and our community. Have a great day.